I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6:30. I would recognize public, but there's none here, so I will also waive discussion of the rules of procedure. Are there new additions to the agenda? Actually, are there additions, not new, to the agenda? That's redundant.
It is a little bit, but no, I don't have any.
Okay, are there changes to the agenda order?
Yeah, we're gonna be tabling two topics till a later date. One is the Sgenda road paving contract, and then the other is the, I just totally lost myself.
Under new business
Number
stipends.
8C, the stipends under new business, that will be tabled.
Thank you. So for the approval of the minutes, next on the agenda, we have two meeting minutes to approve. Some from August 28th. Were we all here? Veranda gave, yeah, we were all here. We tabled those minutes pending some corrections, including details that Peter was going to fill in, and he just filled them in today. So does anybody feel like they'd like, let's see, August, that was 10A1.
Well, that was the one that we worked on together.
This was about Wyndham Solid Waste Management. I provided an update. I provided details from the state charter regarding withdrawal fees, more details regarding Guilford's potential costs. Detailed information was given for Whitingham and Windhall's separate withdrawals from the district. There was some discussion about specifics amongst select board members, and then we talked about having a work session to discuss these details and the potential impact on Guilford, and Peter has scheduled. So that
And
was
if you wanted all the
completed.
details, you can watch it on BCTV.
The, of the discussion?
Yes, they want to.
Okay, I was gonna say, the work session isn't,
No, no,
is it
no.
next
The-
Thursday, right?
The discussion that happened that evening.
Yes, okay, awesome, thank you, Ian. So, if anybody has any other questions about the minutes of the meeting of August 28th?
Were they the ones that were in the folder for the review this weekend?
They were, but,
Both of the meeting minutes I saw had like parentheses that said Peter to fill in.
That's
So
what
that's
she's
what
just
I'm
talking
just
about.
saying.
So you literally read what he filled in?
I read what it was, what
Okay.
this was filled
So
in.
That's where I'm getting confused.
And I'm
Yeah.
gonna do the
What's going
same
on?
thing on the next minutes
Oh,
also.
can we just have them, I'd rather just read them rather than have them read aloud. Can I just...
There you go. It was 10A.
No, but I think that,
I don't
what
think it's
Gabby's
productive
saying.
to do it in front
yeah,
of the camera, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
We could have
And
them in their
it
final
would be
form.
easier if
This is their final form.
I'd rather not be reading on camera and wasting everyone's time, and then you have time to actually think.
That's fine. Would you like to table approval of these minutes and the minutes for the
Yep.
meeting of September 11th until?
I think that'd be good, so we
okay.
can actually review them.
because I'd like to.
That's fine.
Okay, sure.
And they'll be filled in on the in the
They
Google
already are.
Docs.
They already are.
Okay.
So tabling approval of minutes of August 28th
And look who's walking through the door.
and September 11th,
Good.
so that we can read the final minutes. Appropriately, Dan Zambreski just walked in the door, and we are at highway update. Sir, welcome.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
We're grading roads, we're working on some ditching. Basically, that's about it. And hopefully they'll start doing some paving towards the end of the week.
Paving,
Paving the Guilford Center Road.
That's fine.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Alan May with the Better Back Roads
Mm-hmm,
program with that grant will be down here on Thursday
mm-hmm.
to look at the sites. And then afterwards he'll make a, he wants to look at the sites anyways, and he'll make a suggestion and whatever.
Had he looked at the sites beforehand?
No, that's why he wants to come down.
Uh-huh.
So he said not to make any decision until after he comes down on Thursday morning.
And then you're gonna be able to make a decision right away, or you're gonna have to
It's-
wait?
Well, it'll have to be up to the board for the next selectmen's meeting to do
Yeah,
it.
and there's gonna be 3 weeks because this
Yeah.
is a 5-week month before the next select board meeting. which is why
So
there's a-
that puts us into October
Mm-hmm,
10th, maybe,
yeah.
which is probably Columbus Day weekend.
That's correct.
So
No, it's on the 16th is the next one, October 16th.
well, we're supposed to have a meeting on October 9th, which is Columbus Day. So that would then put us to October 11th, which is the following Wednesday.
Are you saying we're not having a
We
meeting on it?
generally-
I thought we were having it on the 16th.
On,
I did too.
when was that decided?
Oh, I don't know, I
I-
just,
Normally, the meetings are held the following Wednesday.
okay.
If
Yes,
it's
I have
on-
it for the 11th.
it
Oh,
would-
okay,
Yeah,
well, let me get
but it would be
on.
at noon on Wednesday because it's on a holiday.
Correct.
So
Um,
are we scheduled to do that then?
Oh,
We should be by practice. I don't know.
Oh, no, I don't know where it is.
Gabby, can you be there?
No.
But I wanted to know, so October 11th is 3 weeks from now.
He
That's
told
correct.
me to wait, tell you guys to wait until after he looks at the site.
Right, so that's
I told him there was a
Thursday.
meeting tonight and everybody wanted to make a decision on what we wanna do, but he said to hold off.
Okay, so,
He's the head of the program.
no, I understand his,
No, I'm just.
I'm just asking about the constraints in terms of
Time.
getting the work done before the end of the year, before the grant expires,
It expires at the end of the year.
right?
He will have all the final say to that, so we'll just have to wait till Thursday and see what he says.
Could we prioritize?
Yeah, I mean.
And then based on his decision,
Yeah,
I think.
I would say the Green River Hill would be the, state road would be the
Yeah.
top priority.
okay. And then what would be second?
it's-
Then,
It's-
then, Sweets Pond Road.
Gordon, it's work that's contracted out, and
Yeah.
so we.
I'm wondering if as a board we could prioritize, if he agrees with us, a decision could be on the record that we would move forward so that we wouldn't have to wait 2
I think
weeks
that's a
to
good
start
idea.
the process.
Well, he
That's-
also has
and
to
maybe
review.
we can't do that, but
He has to review the proposals when he comes on Thursday as well, in addition to seeing the sites. So because of the timely nature of this, I would suggest that we could do is, after we get the okay from him, that you guys could make a decision via email and then ratify it at that meeting.
Because the state has to certify the proposals, right?
That's
Right.
correct.
So we can't do anything until they certify the proposals.
That's correct.
Right.
I mean, is our
Yeah, we
concern winter conditions? Is that
Yeah,
our
That's
concern?
correct.
completing the contract work in time to get the funding.
I mean, given that it's like 90 today, I mean, that could change.
Yeah.
But, I mean, last year we were working without winter conditions into the, mid-December. So it'll all depend. I'm not saying don't rush it, but I am also saying, like, let's not panic either.
Part of
Yeah,
it,
move
could-
yeah.
part of
could
it
we
too.
do what Peter's suggesting though, just do a vote?
I think that's important too, because one of the companies that submitted a proposal to us is concerned about hearing whether or not they'll receive the bid or not, because they have other work that they can potentially get if they don't get this bid. And I want to be respectful
yeah,
of their
that's my-
time.
Yeah,
Concern too.
And also, V-Trans will be there on Thursday too.
Yep.
Mark Pickering.
is it
But we could do a vote.
Yeah.
So I think you guys
So-
should do a vote.
So
and
based
then
on
ratify it.
Thursday's get together,
Yep.
you will then, you think Thursday evening, put something out there that quickly, or will this?
I will try my best, but I'm going to be in Montpelier after I
Oh, that's
meet
right,
with
you're
them.
not even here.
I am leaving for a training up in Montpelier for one of the grants the town has.
do you want me to do this thing with that?
Well, it's first thing in the morning, so I should have
Okay,
time.
that's
It's
fine.
just a matter of what time I get back in the evening.
Okay, I can,
But Friday, I mean, we maybe could get it.
Yeah, I could even come in on Friday and get it to you guys. Oh,
I'm just gonna
okay.
remind you of that.
You're right. So yes, I'll get it to you guys on Friday because
No,
I'll already be in the
that's
office.
more than acceptable in
Okay.
my mind. My point is the decision should be able to be made after these.
It should be,
the
yes.
spring
What is the
process.
vote going to be?
Gets
I mean,
together.
what's the motion?
Well, we have to get approved. So we've received 2 bids for the
For the-
Better Backroads grant for the work that Dan just described. The state has to certify it first, and then based off of that, they may have a recommendation as to which of the 2 bids to accept. If not, it will be up to you to decide between the 2 bids that you received as to who to select to do the work.
Could you send us copies of the bids in advance so people get a chance to look at them?
Absolutely.
I think that would be helpful.
And does
Where's
Dan
the
have a
work again?
recommendation for?
We cannot do that
can't do
until the
that.
state.
I'm sorry.
Where's the work?
So,
Stage Road, east and west of the Green River Covered Bridge, and Sweet Pond.
So maybe Peter could put together a packet for us,
That's
the
what I- sure.
RFPs, the proposals in response to the RFPs, and summaries of each, like a cover sheet with a
Sure.
summary.
Yep.
Like I'm talking 2 sentences.
Yeah.
Perfect.
because we don't know the reputation of these companies either.
Well, what? Yeah,
Sure.
but You do.
You might.
Yeah, I think I do.
Oh,
And then maybe it's just a
We're
little
all-
summary, like a paragraph summary after your meeting that way, because you've all have done
Absolutely.
everything
Yeah.
else.
Right, exactly.
And then just a paragraph that states that AB bullets.
Great.
Vote.
Thank you. Anything else, Dan?
No, that should be pretty much it.
Okay. Under new business, we have a final update on the reappraisal from Lisa and Jeremiah and Sean. So you are on. Would you like to come up and, or
I can stand, I guess, if that is required of
you
me.
can sit if you want to. We can sit.
So we had sent out an email to the select board, and then now listers decided to do up basically a summary of improvements and what we saw. You'll see some of the suggestions in what you were sent, so I don't want to rehash that. I want to just kind of give our perspective. So improvements for the reappraisal, next time, and one of the so we're recommending that the town maintain 2 separate databases for our CAMA system, which is our valuation system. And then if that would give us the ability to extend out a reappraisal if needed. So one of the bigger, I'm gonna kind of ad-lib a lot of this. One of the biggest issues we had was that when our timeline changed, we didn't have another database to go back to create the tax bills for 2017. So we couldn't, so you went in and we inspected properties and we're simultaneously changing property values. And so if you don't finish the reappraisal in that year, you don't have.
You didn't have the history?
Well, yeah, there's no history. You have a database, so an active database, and you're updating that with new values and a new cost table and new Marshall and Swift numbers. And so we suggested that we run 2 databases, but the contractor didn't do 2 databases. So he was working on our active grand list, essentially. And so that was, I guess, problem number 1 with the way we had to work the reappraisal.
Could I ask you a question about that, Jeremiah?
Sure.
So you use ProVal,
Correct.
and that's your database that
Essentially,
it maintains the history
It does.
of each property. So it doesn't store the history and then allow you to change values for the next year?
It does.
Is that what you're saying?
It does.
But
But
any changes you make, so our baseline cost tables, for instance, you upload cost tables into the software. And so when you do that, you change all the existing values. So we roll over our grand list every year.
Yeah.
So all the changes that are made, we go out and inspect and add those to the grand list, and that adds value to the grand list. But then the tax bills are set on that. As soon as we changed all the underlying values, we couldn't, or what was explained to us is that he couldn't go back and get, like, we would have had to recreate all of the data from March when they started. So any changes of sales that had happened that we entered into the system, so the sales history, so you're changing owner records, you'd have to recreate all the ownership details on all the properties because you're working in the active database. There's no,
so everything that we had done with all of that, we would have had to redo. There was just going to be so much recreation.
I just am.
So the
baffled.
history would have all been there, but there was going to be from the previous year. But again, all of the transfers.
so you can get
Name
the
changes would have
values,
been-
that's not the
yeah.
problem, but you have to make sure everything was exactly the way it was before you touched it the year before. So you have to have, essentially, so what we're recommending is, so that's
The
why,
next
anyway, I
time.
was just explaining why we had to go through with and get the extensions, and it'll come,
It'll become more clear as we continue.
but,
Okay.
so that in conjunction with, so we had outlined in the contract when we wanted inspections done. So we need to enforce the contract because we had 90% of property inspections to be inspected by November. So we knew winter was coming and that we want all of the properties to be inspected when there's no snow on the ground, essentially. So, that essentially in the project was not done. And these two things working together put us in a terrible position for
For spring.
Well, it just essentially limited our options because we couldn't go back so you could extend the project another year if you had 2 databases. You could have said, hey, we're going to do this for 2008 grand list because we don't have these inspections done by this timeline. So we think it's prudent to go the following year. But since we didn't have that database, it would have created a lot of work for us to do so.
So that's why basically when we found that little loophole or whatever, that we could do that double set of extensions when I came in and had kind of like that emergency meeting with you guys to do that. That's why we jumped on that, so we could actually make this still happen.
So that was driven more by weather and timing than it was manpower and getting.
Yeah, it was a timing thing because we didn't we didn't say, you know, because they didn't have the inspections done when they were supposed to, when they said they would have them
Right.
done, and we didn't really have any recourse or do anything about it at the time. And since they didn't have the inspections finished, and then the data entry wasn't being finished, so it just kind of snowballed with everything.
So I have another question about database, but I want to know if this is the right time, or are you going to talk more about data going forward?
You can. That's fine. You can ask anything.
And Gabby, you have a question?
No, I was just going to ask, I mean, I think that, first off, I think this is a really great thing that you're doing, so thank you. Like, thank you, A, for getting the appraisal done, thank you for pushing to do all of that, and then I think it's really wise what you're doing in that, you know, in the moment, you're documenting,
Right.
here's what we need to do for next time.
Right.
I think that's going to be really, serve us well going forward, so
Mhm.
thank you so much for all of your work. I guess my question with the enforcement, would you put something in a contract that says, you know, you won't
do
get
have-
paid,
That's
or
right.
you would get
Yes.
a penalty?
Yep.
So we addressed a little bit further.
Yep.
Kind of. I guess we're kind of doing the negatives first, and then some of the positives.
Exactly. We planned this
Right.
today.
End on a high note.
So my other question about database is, so in my experience, running 2 parallel databases increases the chance for error.
That is true.
Right.
So and Peter just raised another question is, does it cost more to run 2 databases?
No.
So a database that does not allow you to maintain the history and then enter changes as you're going on and then go to a final summary of all the changes seems to me to be seriously lacking.
No, I think you misunderstand. It does allow us to do history, and we're only talking about doing a mirror database for a reappraisal, not forevermore. This is just like next time there's a reappraisal, you take a snapshot of our database, leave us one to keep
Preserve
working
it.
on.
Mhm.
Exactly, for us to keep working on, and then they have one to work on, and then the only difference is we would only have to do double data entry for things such as sales and name changes and stuff like that. So
That makes
they
sense.
would be changing measurements and values and conditions and all this other stuff in their database. Ours would only have name changes and stuff, and should everything go as scheduled and as planned, ours then just disappears,
At the end
Okay.
of it.
okay?
Once
And
you've
gets taken
accepted
over
it.
by the new one.
Yeah.
But that way we have a way, should everything hit the fan,
Mhm.
we can say,
No, that
fine,
makes sense.
we can't get it done this year, we will continue with
Okay.
ours and it'll be okay, and
Got
they
it.
continue on with
So
theirs.
what we did have was a restore point. The database does allow us to do a restore point, but we would have had to recreate all the data that we didn't double entry from the beginning.
Which
And
you
that
would
was
not
our-
have to do. if
that
you had
was
a snapshot.
our-
Okay, thank
So
you.
that kind of gives an overview of,
Excellent.
something that
So
fell
good
apart.
thinking.
But we suggested this, but it was told to us it was unnecessary. I don't mean to blame, it's
No, I
part
appreciate you
on
telling
us because
We didn't make it happen.
Right.
need to ensure that it happens
Mhm.
next time because it's not worth the hassle. You can't predict the future, and it's better just to have things that way. So the not enforcing the contract, the extension of the reappraisal, you know, it really did have an impact on the stress within the town office because we had to, the town clerk could not get the tax bills out in the same time frame as typical, which during a reappraisal year, most frequent question will be, what's my tax bill gonna be? And so it just compounded some of the negatives with the reappraisal. And I guess that's really where I'll leave off with the.
Right, though to actually, because to fill this in a little bit, because Gabby was wondering,
Oh, right, it's right here.
yeah,
I can do that.
Read that part.
So yeah, we suggest that we implement a bonus/penalty system for timelines. Finish early, there's some sort of compensation that they're losing out on if they don't finish. And then insert a date at which there's kind of like the point of no return. If we haven't gotten these criteria met by April 10th, or we'll agree upon a date, that we're going to agree to go on the following year with a reappraisal. So that you're not trying to rush and get it done, because it takes more time than you think. Bottom line, it's going to take more time.
You did have a penalty in the original contract for each day of delay beyond the date.
But the thing is, we actually did end up getting it all done on
Didn't
time,
it?
so, but yeah. But we were thinking.
I'm thinking more or less if they don't, we had to have an extension. I don't think that was
We did have a
specified
contingency in there.
For that, okay.
in the contract, and so that's an addendum I would add.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you see that I kind of ad-libbed it all?
I know you hit most of it. I just said, so
Yeah.
I think we got most of that.
But it wasn't just the town office staff that was acting under stress. You two were
yeah.
as
It was
well.
it was incredibly stressful. It was very, very stressful.
Mhm.
And then just doing the whole thing, like when we were, we as a board had met and decided, we can't do it on time. We're gonna, despite how daunting this is, we're gonna have to extend by a year, and then I had a talk with our DA, our district advisor, Cy Bailey, and found out that there was actually a way we could do some extensions that would give us enough time that we could do it. And just, again, the daunting size of going back in time was just so great that we didn't have time for a full board meeting. We just kind of like did a quick little hey, and then, came to you guys, please sign these extensions, and,
And I will say that, on my part, we had, and you could look at the budget outline, we had set up for listers doing inspections.
right,
In case and that we did think about that. I will say that I took another job and I was unable to do any hours. So I didn't anticipate doing that. And so there wasn't an option for me because I took another job. So the listers didn't have the resources
to go and do a good portion
we
of
were
the
only,
inspections.
it
We
was
did a
only
few each. We each did a
for
handful.
10% is what we
That's what
anticipated.
you,
And it wouldn't have been enough to, the 10% wasn't going to get us there anyway. But I will say that was something, I guess, that changed in the project.
I would just like to say that we looked really carefully for the reappraisal firm. We sent out a lot of RFPs and we got a lot of responses. And then, when we chose ARGI, they already had familiarity with the town of Guilford, and Lisa had worked with them prior. And, I think they were interested in making sure that the reappraisal came through on what they initially thought it was going to be in terms of a timeline. And I think Lisa and Jeremiah did a great job somehow living with frustration and still working. I mean, the nice thing about it, I would come in and all four of them had a very cordial relationship. So I think the ARGI really had a timeline. They wanted to complete it. They didn't want to turn around and have an extra year just because it would have disrupted their schedule. So it was difficult, but in the end, because of these two guys, it actually had a pretty seamless conclusion.
Great, thank you.
So I guess I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Yep.
Let's
So
give Lisa some
we
thought.
started out with Jeremiah giving you some of the negatives and some of the things that we feel that should be considered for next one. We want to also give some of the highlights, some of the things that did go well, which also should be considered again for next time. So basically, we thought that we kept the taxpayers fairly notified with the process, what was going on, and as things changed, we were able to do inserts with data mailers and things like that, giving people dates so people knew what to expect. That was good for both the taxpayers and also for people in the town office, because I think it mitigated a little bit the fact that the tax bills were going to be later than usual. People now knew this was the case, and I don't think we're pestering Penny and Pete and Ellie quite as much as they otherwise would have. So again, we tried our best to keep people notified. So another thing is the data mailers, which ARGI had initially suggested, and they were like, oh, we don't know. Jeremiah and I believe Sean, we feel very strongly those were actually a huge asset. What they did is they were, it was after the inspections had been completed and the data had been entered, we were able to print a report basically saying to the people, this is what we believe your house has. It's got this many bathrooms, this many bedrooms, this many square feet, this for outbuildings, et cetera, you guys all got them. And it gave people a chance to read and say, yep, this is right, and then send it back, or say, no, this is wrong, and send it back, and we could follow up with adjustments or asking questions, or even an inspection. Sometimes we hadn't even gotten into a house, gave us a way to get in an interior inspection. So it gave us a way to be more correct than we would have been, and a lot of them that we had in corrections were from just exterior inspections where people had not made appointments or allowed us in. So, and I think it really involved people and made them feel, that they were included and we were trying to be accurate. So, to our knowledge, Guilford is only one of the very few, if not only, Vermont towns to provide that information, and it gave us some really great opportunities to take care of inaccuracies before valuation. Now, another thing is we continue to have a relationship with ARGI. They do all of our support for our valuation software, and they, Russ and Dan both are amazing. They have done so much. Call them up today. It's like, hey, we need you to do this, and sometimes it's really even on the periphery of what you would even think of needing. For our mapping, for example, we have our ProVal cards that are attached to our parcels, and we said, okay, well, we want our new ProVal cards PDF'd and parsed so that they could be in a keyed information that the mapping company can use. So boom, Russ is on that. It's going to happen. That's not really necessarily part of what you would expect, but they do that for us. When we were really busy and we were doing the grievances, and I had so much going on, I called Dan a few times and said, Dan, I just need you to come in and do some data entry for me so that we can really focus on grievances. And he just came up from Greenfield and just spent, a few hours in the office doing this kind of thing. This was actually technically beyond when the contracted portion, because they were really contracted through the informal grievances. And they were still coming and supporting during the formals, which was pretty important to us. So we have that long-standing relationship. And that's helpful that we had that before, and we continue to have that after. So the bottom line with all of this is that we have a product that has been accepted by the state, came in under budget, and the lister's office is satisfied with. Of the 912 residential properties, 440 properties had an interior inspection, which is approximately 48%. That is above average for typical reappraisals, which usually only get about 30% interiors. So that's a pretty good number for us. There were 20 formal grievances, going to the listers, which is only about 2%, which is a very low amount, considering the fact that Guilford has no zoning and it's been 12 years since our last townwide reappraisal. So only 20 formal grievances is pretty low. So with all that, their preliminary sales study is showing that our median sales ratio of improved residential properties is 1.01%. So we have it valued slightly over sales. So that, basically saying the sales are 99% of assessments. And so that's a 3-year rolling. So basically, if it was 100%, then that would be like sales are going for what we valued. So we're slightly by 1% above what the sales are, and again, it's a 3-year rolling sales figure, and it's an average ratio, and and again, as the sales tend to be going up a little bit, being a tiny bit high is better than being a tiny bit low, because we expect that within another year we'll probably be like down at 98% or something like that instead of 101% where we are right now. So.
Yes.
All right, time to play with numbers.
Well, I'll just give them so our breakout, we did a breakout of the budget, what we proposed and what was actually spent, so the subtotal that we proposed for listers was $31,520. and we actually spent about 15,676. So, and a lot of that was due to, we didn't do a lot of the inspection time that we thought, and then the truncated timeline we didn't have as much time as we would like to do sales review and data review. The ARG contract he didn't go over. It's 60,500. That was anticipated for, and then oh shoot, I didn't write that down. It'll be on the spreadsheet.
Which one? Oh, the
So the miscellaneous cost.
Yeah, we did have that we were gonna be doing inspections at $22.50, and we really, we didn't bother taking off for the handful that we did. Again, probably like a dozen total between the two of us.
I was just like,
Yeah.
the total project cost was $83,230, and we had a total projected cost of $89,770, and that's our hard cost. We still have no more than, there's still a little bit of money that needs to be spent out of payroll for the reappraisal. The hours that we spent getting ready for the meeting today, and then Lisa and then there's some
Yeah.
travel expenses, but
Right.
it's no more than $2,500. So if we add that in, it's about $86,000. So
You came in under budget.
we're
We did.
3,500 under budget.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the numbers side of it.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess at this point we'd like to ask any questions that you might have for us based on all the other reading that you got. I know that it was.
Yeah, we sent out a bunch of colorful stuff. Hopefully
yeah.
you guys got a chance to look at it on your computers rather than printing it.
So it was actually very helpful to have it in advance, and I really appreciate your responding to that request. It was awesome to have it. And impressive that you came in under budget considering the constraints and the issues that happened. Did you get much comment from the public other than the grievances? Or were people impressed with the amount of work that you did?
I don't think people really realize. I haven't really heard much.
Because it was a lot.
Yeah, really, I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, we're on the wrong side for any type of unbiased or.
Yeah.
So like the general public would probably know what they think better than, what we had was that they did see the inspector around, that they liked seeing what they are being taxed on. I mean, that was very important to us, is to say, this is what we have on your card. This is what your value is. You have a fireplace, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. Come in and tell us we're different, or at least let, because this is what you're gonna get a tax bill on. And most people don't know what they're being taxed on, and this is the only way we can get our data right for the future. It's like
Those data
our
mailers.
values are only as good as our data.
Yeah.
Bottom line, to an extent. It's the better data you have, the better values you have. So
And I have to say, I've got to interject. I was impressed by how many. I don't have a count. How many data mailers came back?
Yeah.
There were a lot. It was huge, and I was really impressed and pleased with that.
So we should
People took
probably
them
say
seriously.
something about that at some point, because getting that information, I think, was very helpful, and I think the people took the time to respond and to discuss it with you was pretty impressive too.
Yes.
So, I think that's an important point to note.
Yes.
Yeah, I think also that trustworthiness and connection, they're getting to be more and more rare these days, and that, we don't have an adversarial position like, here come the listers, hide your basement. It's like, you're part of what this whole town is, and we're supporting what goes on here. And I think both, the integrity of the listers and the depth of effort and detail that you put into the process was also communicated to our town. And so for the people watching on BCTV, there they are, our listers.
But it is important because we know we have an ongoing relationship with all these taxpayers. So if you do a reappraisal project and it does go bad with the public relation, or they come in and you're adversarial with how you present values, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that still are not fully pleased, but just knowing that you're going to be communicating with taxpayers on a year-to-year basis, that's just a very important part of the job.
So on the issue of communicating, one of your minor side points was it's a problem with people having more and more cell phones and less landlines. So you were able to reach every household, every property owner through mailing.
We did through mailing, we did not end up using phone calls.
And it just sort of brings to mind the fact that it's getting, if we had an emergency, we don't necessarily have a phone database to connect with Guilford residents. And I don't know, and that wouldn't necessarily relate to the listers, but you just reminded me that it's getting harder and harder to communicate with people other than by physically mailing to a property address.
It's
And
true,
I don't know
that's
if
a
it,
slow
if
way
it
of
meant,
communicating.
yeah, and I don't know if you encountered any hurdles, but I think it's something the select board kind of needs to start to consider in general, not necessarily related to the listers, but you might give us an indication if it gave you some issues.
We've talked about this with the attorney, asking for email addresses. There's probably some other way we could bring email into this, maybe a town, email address for people.
Mhm.
I don't know, but the problem when you have a public database is if you had collected phone numbers,
You
technically someone could ask for those.
Yeah,
And
and
it's public.
they have, yeah.
And so that's where you run into a privacy issue, I think,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, that if you give out your cell phone,
Mhm.
I like just with the database in ProVal and values, I have to submit it in someone because it's available
If
in
somebody asks.
electronic format.
Yeah.
Just letting that out there as a.
Mhm.
I mean, the good thing is we do actually have two versions of a property record card that we can share, and one of them, the public one, doesn't have like all of our memos and stuff, but still, it's not really it's in a memo format, it's not in a place where you could really grab it and share it kind of thing. I mean,
I just think it's something that.
I personally think
general-
email is a great way to think about heading for a lot of this stuff, but that's a pretty daunting thing as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Something for our future consideration.
Yes, next generation of everybody here.
Do you have any other
Any
questions?
questions? Yeah.
So lastly, just with your accounting, on that second page of the project
Are
called
you
the
on
final
the
page.
spreadsheet now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So over to the right of the 89 is the 86,403. My understanding is that's the number which includes those grievances, the 3,200 above. So in addition to that, it will just be whatever time was spent preparing for this meeting as a final. So that's the
Where are you
neighborhood,
on? I'm sorry.
It's the middle column.
this 86,
Oh, okay.
which is inclusive of this.
Right, because we've got a.
So it's that number plus whatever
Yeah.
time pulling.
It's-
it.
Right, yes, yep.
It's
So we're gonna have
it's
that.
the 83 number in the middle column. The 86 number was including possible.
I see it,
We're
but
gonna get-
that's why I'm confused.
Yeah.
So
Right, this is what I'm trying.
Okay.
It's the middle. So the actual hours column, so it'd be the second column on is our actual expense. I know that the 86
The
number
blue
was.
column.
got you.
I can show
I don't
you.
have my colored copy.
Yes.
That's what she
So
was
it's-
trying to
That's
show.
why I just.
The actual hours plus the total, so that's the total contract. It's
Right.
86, right?
And I guess this will
And then-
clarify. I don't know if you.
And then there's going to be another
Should we go on to
25.
it?
There'll be one
That's-
clarification that we just wanted to make sure we addressed all the questions.
Right, so
before
we'll
we-
actually, can we table that one for just a minute?
Absolutely, and the point is you came in under budget. I'm not trying to
Yes.
be a stickler
And
with this.
we'll explain that more.
I
We
was
have
just
a
trying
little
to
bit more, but we
understand
wanna
the
make sure we
spreadsheet.
get
Perfect.
everything everybody else has first, and
Thank
we'll
you.
come back.
Wanted to make sure that,
Yeah,
No problem.
but you had a question on that, so
Yes.
we'll go to the next.
we will come back to you.
I have a question. Can a citizen ask for that letter to be resent the letter that explains what it describes the property?
The data mailer, we could recreate a data mailer,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Most people just want the property card.
which also explains.
So you have a tax card in the vault or on electronically, and we can send that PDF, which will give you more information. The mailer was sent out to simplify it on the highlights, because if you get, it's kind of like the paradigm of too much information that you don't
Yeah.
understand. You just want to be, and then anyone who had any additional questions, we'd follow up. But we could send that out.
And a data mailer, actually, the nice thing about the data mailer, it was clear to read. If you look at our property record cards, it's in this tiny little writing over on the left-hand side or something like that. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, and all that other stuff. It takes a little while to actually read a property record card, which is why whenever we have people, who are starting to ask more than just a simple question, we always try to invite them to come in and sit with us, and so we can explain everything, because we figure the more the people understand and are educated, the more they'll appreciate why they have the values they have. and then they're less scared of the whole process. So we always want people to come in and visit with us. So if you know somebody who wants a data mailer or a property record card, we can help you out. We know other people. Anybody else? Any other things with all this stuff we gave you? So we still have, again, just one more little tidbit
Yes.
here. So this goes back, and we'll fill in a little bit more with Gordon's question. Just a couple things as far as budgeting and compensation and stuff. Two parts to this. So when the select board asked us to change the way we were drawing some of our pay, because I guess they wanted to.
Just skip to the.
Yeah.
um,
Okay. So there was
So there was
two parts to it.
we had anticipated a large volume of phone calls to the town clerk, and we
Yeah.
budgeted about $4,800 to be dispersed. And so the stress that was put on the office, we just want to make sure that, we required additional resources from other departments at the town.
The town clerks,
And
all
they
three of
went
them.
outside of their day-to-day work. And so we kind of feel, a little guilty about that we ask people to set aside their recordings in the town office to answer our phone calls, but that was the logistics that they agreed on when we started. We would like that compensation to be dispersed if possible, but either way, the listers just want to make it known that we feel that something should be allocated for that outside of their additional
Or their
day-to-day.
normal, yeah.
Penny estimated around
160 hours.
160 hours over that she was
Over the whole
answering
period.
phone calls, and that was Ellie and Penny
And Pete.
and Pete answering phone calls. It was overwhelming because of it's not just hours, it's consolidated hours when the grievance hit, everyone's calling the office to schedule, and it's
They actually were not able to get their work done for a period of weeks.
so
For like 2 weeks, they
if
couldn't
we
get anything
don't
done.
if we don't do that, that's I just feel that we should ask for it, and then if we ever to do when we do a reappraisal again, if that setup isn't worked out with the town clerk, I recommend that we have someone to answer phones.
Is that
because-
task in their job description?
So the reappraisal budget was created with keeping in mind that town office staff would be required to account for their time and allocate the time spent on the reappraisal project to the cost of the budget. So the budget integrated pay and overhead time for pay and overhead for town office staff. So that was originally included in the budget. So what you're asking for, I think I'm hearing you correctly, is a bonus,
A bonus,
on
absolutely.
top of this for having for the fact that it was onerous for them to do this on top of their regular work. However, am I understanding that they worked overtime to do this, or that other things slipped, or that
I don't believe there was
because
overtime from it.
the original intent of this budget was to incorporate the time of the town office staff that would be involved in the reappraisal process. And we on numerous occasions asked them to account for their time.
Well, because
Right.
we see that
According
about 5% of Pete's and Penny's wages came from the reappraisal fund.
So did it go from one line item to another?
It would, yes,
Yes.
it would be just,
Yeah.
they would still get their regular pay,
Yeah.
Right,
but they
It was
would,
coming from another source. It was coming from
right.
what they were
bucket,
doing for
right.
the listers was coming from another line. The
Right.
budget that was established for this project.
Yes.
And so do we have any precedent or policy for assigning bonuses for hardship work?
no, I
think
mean,
we've
I,
ever
I'm just
done a
gonna
bonus and
interject if I.
Oh, sure.
It was in a line item in our budget. We had anticipated for the phone calls, and I mean, it's fine that the budget was accepted. So I'm just saying it was in there, and the $4,800 wasn't something we said that this will be taken out of the reappraisal for compensation. It was kind of, but that was It's fine. I just wanted to make.
When we created it, it was intended as a bonus to thank
It was
them
what
for
was voted. What
going above and
was
beyond.
in the ARG contract in a spreadsheet.
So what you're saying is that money has not been used. That's
Well,
still
it's
sort of, let's call it sitting in your account. There's some
It
amount
kind
of
of
money.
partially
in that.
has, because it did, some of their wages, a 5% from Pete and Penny wages was taken.
From that
From that
$4,800.
$4,800.
So there was an additional difference between
So
that.
the-
And
The
Ellie's
difference-
should have been as well, as she came on board and took
Right.
over Pete's responsibilities.
So
I
when
don't
we
see
did
her
the-
name here on the spreadsheet, but,
When
So-
we did the contract, they weren't,
Ellie wasn't here when we did the contract, so.
right.
So that's kind of.
So as far as we see, when we haven't poured through the numbers, but we believe there's a difference of $2,281.06, so.
And my
Between-
question still is is this work in their job description? When we're doing a reappraisal or an appraisal, is that part of their job?
A percent was built into the budget as part of their job.
Whether it's.
Right, but is it
I've
described
never
as-
seen Penny's job description.
Okay.
We don't have anything to do with the elected officials' town or the appointed
Right.
job descriptions. So, but I don't know, but we do have the contractual understanding that their time was to be apportioned over, between regular office and a reappraisal.
So the only reason why we wouldn't be involved in this is because this budget is from the select person's
This
perspective.
budget is approved by the town, yeah,
Yes.
and so I guess we're responsible for how it's
How the money is
managed, yeah.
Because in the beginning, when we first were sending out the letters saying, we're gonna inspect your part of town first, the phone calls would come in and then slow down, and we'd do another bunch of mailers, the phone calls would come in and slow down. They felt that was pretty manageable. Because at that point, there were 3 of them handling that kind of thing, plus, we were handling it when we were in the office. It was really the couple weeks after the changes of appraisal went out, that as soon as the changes of appraisal went out and then right up through the informal grievances and through the grievances, that period of time, which was 2 to 3 weeks or whatever, was, I guess, absolutely, I know it was insanity, because I'd be on the phone and I'd get 3 messages dumped on me because they would
We just
they
want
kept
to make
coming.
it clear that we couldn't have done it without the supporting staff.
No way.
And that regardless of what happens, we want to be shown as saying that we really appreciate it, and that if there's any way that that
A monetary thank you?
outside of the reappraisal, they're not meant to handle that kind of call volume, because that's specifically for the reappraisal, which is not their daily. I understand there's no specific, this is what you do as a town clerk, but on a year-to-year basis, they're not getting hundreds of phone calls.
But wouldn't that
Yeah.
phenomenon occur every time
Every
this every
reappraisal.
reappraisal?
Right, all I'm
Probably.
saying is one of these things where we need to either have additional staff, because even if the listers were in the office, and we were in the office when these phone calls came in, we're talking to taxpayers, we're handling grievances. If those phones don't get picked up, that's, in my mind, bad public relations.
There's no grieving.
Yeah.
So they don't feel like they're being heard. I'm just letting you know that that's
Right.
my personal.
Right.
No,
I
it's
mean,
a
I was
good- it's a
coming
great
in
point.
at nights and on weekends, getting messages off the voicemail, taking them home, calling from home, just because we had the phones going so much.
Right.
But just think of what they were doing while they were in here, trying to get their work done.
So,
Anyway.
so I was in here also, as was Peter, and I know they handled them with grace and
Oh, yeah.
patience and
They were
and
outstanding.
constantly. But I don't know how people feel about some kind of bonus. Knowing that this work was kind of built into their work schedule for the period of time of the appraisal, I'll hear others.
Yeah, I'm torn about it. I don't.
Was a big part of it
I
to the
haven't
extension,
finished
not to
yet.
interrupt, I
You
apologize.
did
Of their work? No.
No, so that
Phone calls
didn't,
would
I'm
come
sorry,
in
no, but
there.
that played into something I was thinking, I apologize
It's
for that.
okay.
Well, I mean, it was a condensed period of time, right?
Right, and
But
that's
so, I mean,
yeah.
I think that's part of it, but I think the other thing is we're not sure what to do because it's never happened before. And so maybe we could table this and think about it and look into it if we could use the money for bonuses from the, I don't even know the answer to that,
I know the word bonus is like someone getting a reward. It's more or less just compensation for what they did.
Yeah.
Not, they didn't, that's kind of my perspective.
Richard, you had a question, please.
No, I was just expressing my feeling about it or my thought about it, which was I'm not sure about giving a bonus for that work, which seems to be integral to what the position is, even though it was over and above. I'm not sure, I'm not saying I don't,
Yeah, no, I appreciate
Yeah.
it. That's
so I would like time to think about it.
Sean?
I was wondering whether the select board could make a formal request of the town office people in such a way that they could submit hours that they worked that they haven't submitted yet. In other words, it's a little bit of an unusual situation if they were asked to submit additional hours because it's been documented that they did additional work.
No, they completed these tasks within their normal working day hours. They did not stay on to, I mean.
That's true.
Right, like we have everyone's
Yeah.
timesheets.
So we didn't,
So
that would be double paying, double accounting for hours, which
I'm
I
just,
think.
I would have to look at the contract again, but I remember talking about this when it was done and we set it in the budget that something needs to be done because this is going to happen. So it was an anticipated outcome. So it wasn't unanticipated. We knew that there was going to be a large call
Right,
on.
and it's gonna happen again.
Right, it'll happen every
That's
time.
And so I
planning
think
And so I just don't feel, and like I said, going
Yep.
forward, you either should hire somebody specifically to answer phones
Okay.
or work that dynamic out because
And I think that is an important.
it's a bottleneck. of-
Can you could they make that as a formal recommendation that we need to think about part-time help at the next reappraisal?
Yeah, well, that's what we're kind of doing now,
Yeah.
making it public record. This information, what we have is going to be kept in the reappraisal. We've done a data file, so it'll be our body of work for the reappraisal.
Right.
Gabby.
Did you guys have your own phone line?
No, actually, that was really interesting
Sorry,
as
what
well.
did you ask? Did you have
Did
what?
they have their own phone line so that someone could call
We-
them and they got
Oh,
a
that's
list or
all true.
number
Yeah.
only?
No, it was pretty crazy because
So
we have the
that's
phone,
another
the
thing that you
main,
have.
the main line. Anytime we ever make phone calls, we make the phone calls on the fax line so we don't tie up the phone line because that's its own clogging thing. But we were making phone calls on our cell phones. As I said, I was making tons of phone calls from home.
So I
Just-
think
We could have a
try to-
dedicated line
we should have a
or two
dedicated
lines.
line,
Yeah.
like it's once every
If
10
there's
years.
an
And it's
appraisal,
also
then
a
yeah.
pain because you have to go through the phone tree,
Right.
right? And we get on, you have
Yes.
to,
Yeah.
you know.
And it's
so-
interfering with daily
Normal,
business.
yeah.
Yeah.
As someone who was also working in the office, particularly during the
Those 3
end of
weeks.
the process,
Yeah.
with the informal grievances and the formal grievances, it was difficult for even those of us who needed to use the phone to accomplish our own jobs, like myself, to use the phone because
Oh yeah, it was gone.
it was on. And I mean, even several of you tried calling to contact me or other people and got a busy signal, which these days it's extremely rare to get a busy signal. And so I think that at minimum, you know,
Maybe a
having
separate temporary.
Even if it was just a cell phone.
Mhm.
So I would like
That's
to
easy
say that
enough
that
to
is a
do.
problem that can be solved
Yeah.
down the line.
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
have gone well over our 30
Sorry.
minutes.
Yeah.
Are there other issues to talk about before we end this discussion?
No, I think that we're pretty much done. I don't know if Gordon, because those were the
No,
additional
that's
numbers
fine.
that we had tweaked around to come
Yep.
up with the other.
No, I understand. Thank you.
So if you guys have any other questions for us, I don't know if I have nothing else to say.
So I want to echo Gabby and Miranda's appreciation for this project. Well done,
Thank you.
grace under pressure. And I think well executed, so thank you so much.
And thank you very much, and thank you all for your support.
Thank you for your good
Yeah.
work.
You really did a great job.
So, do you want a data mailer or a property record card? Okay,
Thank you all.
I'll sign in.
Yes, please do. The next item on the agenda is Planning
I can't,
Commission.
they were sent out to everybody, but I can't tell.
The next item on the agenda is the Planning Commission vacancies, and I have not received the official minutes, but I did receive word from Michelle that the Planning Commission would like to recommend Nathaniel Matheson and Lynn King be appointed to the Planning Commission. They've both been at meetings recently and showed great interest on more than one meeting, and they so that's who they would like us to recommend. And they've also named Harry Evans to the Flood Hazard Review Board. So we've got movement on that.
Oh,
So,
good.
does anybody have any other comments or discussion about who might be on the Planning Commission?
I just had a question about the process for bringing new people onto the planning commission. I mean, is our current process to say, oh great, these are the people chosen by the planning commission, and if they like them, we like them? Or are there other steps in the process that we're currently using?
So I think we agreed at the last meeting that we would, to encourage volunteerism, that we would encourage the commissions to seek out members and vet them and then make a recommendation to the
Okay.
select board.
Yeah.
I'm happy
And
with that.
Yeah, I think that knowing both of these people and knowing that having seen them at meetings and having seen them interact, I completely, because I'm the liaison with the planning commission, completely agree with these recommendations. So,
We also discussed having that we wanted the commissions to have criteria about who the commissioners were going to be. I mean, what are we looking for in a commissioner? I don't know. We didn't formalize that, but we did discuss that, because that would help us to give the imprimatur that, okay, you've looked at the criteria, this is who you want, and then we can vote on it. Yeah, I mean, not vote on it, but agree with you.
or
So I don't know what happened to
appoint them.
that,
Yeah,
that criteria piece.
so I think engagement was a real key piece here. Interested engagement.
Yeah, okay. So they want to volunteer, that's the criteria.
Yeah. A little more than
At the
that.
moment.
So I also wanted to point out that Harry Evans has been on the planning commission for decades and it would be a real asset on the flood hazard review board, so.
He's one of our town treasurers.
Yeah,
Yes, he is.
so I would entertain a motion to appoint Nathaniel Matheson and Lynn King to be planning commissioners
So moved.
and Harry Evans to the flood hazard
So
review
moved.
board.
Unsekonded.
Do we have to appoint them, or is
Yes.
it the commissioners? I mean, does the commission
The
appoint
commission
them
named
to
him, I think we just need to approve that,
Oh, yeah.
so.
Yeah, because you asked them
to appoint who they
appoint
a
who
they
member?
want.
So I would
That's
say that
right.
we don't need to do that. We
No,
just
it's only the two
let them, yeah.
new commissioners that you need the motion on.
The select board has to appoint members, one from the planning commission.
Oh, that's true.
One from
So
the
they
plan-
have,
and
no,
we
they had to
decided planning-
recommend.
and
Right.
We have
No,
to appoint.
That's not correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they had to recommend to you, similar to new members on a commission. They recommend someone to you, you actually do the appointing.
Yeah,
okay. So to keep
So
track
did we
of
just
them.
do that?
we just did that.
Well, I mean, it's
in the motion.
hard to.
It is.
You know,
No, I
I mean, I'm
agree.
not
Oh,
joking. I have to keep
clarity.
track of them.
So Richard moved and who seconded?
Gabby.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Hurrah.
We are tabling stipends. Gabby, web pages for town commissions.
This came up a month ago about the conservation commission with the
Hello, Guilford?
wild parsnip or
Oh,
giant
okay.
parsnip.
Oh, the,
There was a concern.
Giant hogweed.
Giant hogweed,
Oh.
which is actually wild parsnip.
Is it the
Wild
same?
parsnip.
No, it's not.
No, they're two different things.
One of them is poison.
Well,
They
they
both-
both are.
Whatever.
Okay, well,
The whole-
let's,
The point
See
being
the
that they
previous
were trying to get
video.
information out, and there's no opportunity for that. There's no website. So when it was brought up to the select board, everyone's like, of course they should have a website. So what happened was Linda Lemke and the commission got together and made a proposal. We talked about it with Peter as far as what the menu would look like, how it would be arranged, and then that it would basically be sort of a static. It would be information that they would provide to Peter. It'd be a one-shot deal and then updated annually or as needed, such as the giant hogweed incident. Which seems fair, but I want to make sure with Peter's time that seems like a reasonable proposal, as well as we should then put that proposal out to any town commission.
wait, let me understand this. Are we volunteering Peter to make very simple websites for all
It's part of the town website to add them on, because right now, like the fire district has a click
yes.
button on our website, but our own commissions don't. For example, so a vehicle for them to actually have a presence and put out some information as needed to the public.
Is that part of Peter's job description?
Not at this time.
Web stuff is, but not really.
Peripherally,
He just like to
yeah.
sort of keep posting minutes and, not to be the webmaster for sure.
Which
And
is
I don't
technically Penny.
think you have time. I know that it, but not.
So if not Peter's time, then I would suggest that we have a vehicle for at least our commissions to get information out there
So
that's attached to our website.
one of the big things going on at the town fair next week is towns and social media. And there are like two or three seminar sessions that we are gonna participate in. And I think apart from the very practical issue of workload, which is a very significant issue, the other thing is how do we get information out to the town residents in a timely manner, in a way that we can afford to do it, and in a way that is legal. So maybe we should talk about this.
I'm
No,
fine
it's
with
just-
that, but this is something that's been coming up for 2 years, and so
Yeah.
I'd really like, with they're trying to get information out. I'd like to support them, especially since it was a result of a public citizen complaint.
Yeah.
That we could actually probably provide information pretty readily.
So Gabby, let me understand. So is it the Conservation Commission that's asking for this? Because Michelle from the Planning Board came to the Rec Commission, informally really, because Eric Jones is a web builder, and she asked him if he could take on sort of improving Hello Guilford, and so it seems like there are a few different initiatives
There are.
about, communication in Guilford and getting important information out. And it's another one of the situations that I see of kind of mixed communication. And so I think it would be great to come up with a plan to have somebody deal with it quickly in the simplest possible way.
So,
I think there's been, Don McLean has a calendar out that was for Guilford, right? Then the Planning Commission decided they want to do Hello Guilford, which was a year-long sort of their new sort of calendar to launch.
I guess you can
Front
put
porch
those in
forum.
front.
No, you can, but that's not town affiliated.
That's right.
Right? And so just to have an yes, I think there's a lot of things out there, none of which I don't get any information about any of them, but our commissions don't have an like the Conservation Commission has no outlet, and I
Right.
think they just want to put some information out there, and they have good information.
if,
So I think a social media policy and doing something aside from posting stuff up is a separate discussion, and it's been going on for 2 years, and we don't seem to have any forward progress. But I think that's a separate discussion from can we have our
A link
committees
to
have
Conservation Commission information.
have a page when we have a page for the fire department, the Algiers Fire District, things that aren't even sort of, they're loosely town affiliated, but our own commissions don't have anything.
yeah, I was gonna say, may I speak to this? Gabby and I have talked about this extensively. I also spoke with Linda Lemke about it several times. And as far as being concerned about my workload, yeah, I think that's a legitimate concern, and I appreciate that. That being said, our website, I agree that these are, 4 parts of the town that need an outlet. And just taking the Conservation Commission as an example, as long as each commission understands that this is static information, that, I'm not maintaining Facebook or something for them, that this is for them, to have data that is vetted and proven and valuable to the residents of this town, that in this instance, for example, it would take me between 1.5 and 2 hours to put up and create the pages that they need to share this information. And then after that, it would be once a year, similar to the rest of the pages on the website, having them review it and inform me what, if anything, they need changed. So changes could take 10 to 20 minutes a year, at the
So once
like-
you complete the original task.
Exactly. Then that information is out there and available And I think that it would be valuable to I can appreciate where the Conservation Commission is coming from, particularly with the recent situation earlier this year. And they've already begun the process of compiling this information. So
Good.
I don't have to gather the information. It's going to be provided to me. And what would happen then is after I do the initial putting together of it, that they can have one opportunity to review it to make sure that it's the information that they wanted up there, and then annually come back. So between the the 4 commissions, say you set aside 2 hours for me for each of the 4 commissions, so that would be less than 1 work day for me to get the initial setup, and then it would be less than 1 hour a year to maintain those things for each of the commissions.
Well, that's great because, the Penny sent word to the Cemetery Commission that there was to be no linkage between that the
Well,
Cemetery
new creation of
Commission
pages,
needed its own webpage, and so we were wool gathering about doing that. So if we could have a simple alternative as well as the other commissions, that would be great.
So, go ahead.
I'm not sure if we really want people to get information, that's important information. I don't think that a web page is the best way to do it. They'd have to go to the Conservation Commission. They have to go to the town webpage. They'd have to go to the Conservation Commission webpage. What about having something in this town that has an information board or something like
So,
that?
That's
The
a
old
different
way.
issue. That's a different issue, which the Planning Commission has talked about for a long time. The Select Board noodles from time to time, and others, the Gazette, publication, and other people in town think about. And I think if we wanted to explore that, we could actually get really disciplined about it and do it together as a group of people who are really engaged in this. What's going on in Algiers Village and other stuff. To answer Gabby's question, which I think is the issue on the floor, I think I would suggest that if Peter feels that this is the kind of information that he can put up pretty reasonably, that it would at least start the process and serve that particular purpose, and that we could agree as a select board to take on the larger issue together with the Planning Commission and the Rec Commission and whoever else wants to be involved in it, and see how we can move forward, because it is, I think, one of our 6 goals.
And that's what I was going to just reinforce. I think to do this now is important
Yeah.
because there is specific information that's very relevant and interesting, and people are engaged with it. But I think the bigger issue, back to Miranda's point, is and Richard's point, is we've got to come up with a way to communicate information, whether it's on one website, that the town does this successfully on, but it's something we'll have to wrestle with.
If I can just
I
reiterate,
agree.
the reason it's before you all tonight is because of 2 things. One is the select board was originally the ones that approved the town setting up a website. In touching on what Veranda said, it just needs to be made clear that if this is something that you decide to do, that Penny's concern is she feels that it's enough work for her and her staff to update the 90% of the rest of the website, once a year. That this is not that part of their responsibility. That this information, at least for the time being, until a greater decision is decided, that this would be for my role.
Understood. I see what you're saying.
But I think there is a broader discussion to be had about
Yes.
I don't know when our website was last updated aside from the meeting minutes, for example. I think we could have a cleaner and nicer and more attractive website that features artists and things like that. So that's to me, that's a discussion down the road after you've
Agreed.
gone to your town meeting.
I agree.
Thank you. So,
Okay, well,
So it
thank
sounds
you,
like we have
Peter. So do we need a
consensus.
motion
I
for
don't think
this,
so.
or
I think
is
it's
it?
relatively within your job description
I think,
to do something.
yeah.
So we don't
And
need a
who's going to
motion.
tell, so you'll notify Gabby or someone?
I'll give the thumbs up to the Conservation Commission because they already have drop boxes there.
Okay.
They are
Yeah, when I spoke
They're
Tech savvy.
Tech
I
savvy.
mean, when I spoke with
Yeah.
Linda last week, they already have a majority of
Right.
the information assembled that they would like, because they're just waiting for you guys to say, yeah, it's okay.
So we need to rely on you to let us know if this starts interfering with other
Yep.
stuff, and you're having issues with priorities or not enough time to
Sure.
get stuff done.
Absolutely.
And we'll leave that up to you.
And we need to make sure that it's on our agenda that we have that we discuss the town information center.
I'm gonna,
Or right.
it'll be on future agenda topics, okay?
And do you guys wish me to also reach out to the other 3 commissions to let them know that they could have a small amount of information on the website? Because, as Veranda said, the cemetery commission has a few things they'd like to share with
Yeah,
people.
Yeah, I think you definitely should.
Well, I can
And the
do
planning
the
commission.
cemetery commission, you could do the planning commission, I'm the liaison to the rec commission, and
Yeah,
they have plenty of information out
So
there.
you would, it's just a tab that you would put there, right? You click for cemetery commission
Yeah.
information.
But I'm just saying, let them know that,
Oh,
No, I mean,
Miranda can do that.
I'm the liaison to the cemetery
and
commission, so
you'd
if you
like to
wanna
talk to
do
the
it, great.
planning commission.
I will, yes.
All right.
I'll
then
email Linda and CC you. And
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds like a plan. Okay.
Sorry, next thing, payroll. Oh, no,
No.
VSP, Vermont State Police speed cards.
So, here, I'm gonna pass out some information to all of you.
thank you.
And here's one for you. So, as I was thinking last week, that it had been a while since we've heard from our friends at Vermont State Police. And so, last week I reached out to Lieutenant Anthony French to find out about the results of this. As you well know, you guys all requested speed carts to be deployed within town to kind of find out what's going on. There had been some complaints about people speeding in certain areas.
Yo.
There-
I don't know if Steve is in
Richard,
color,
are
but
you
this is
on?
pretty impressive.
So, he responded to me on Friday, which we were closed, so I couldn't present this to you guys over the weekend.
That's
So this gives you the dates and locations as to where the speed cart was deployed and for the length of time. It provides you with a bunch of other statistics, what the posted limits were, what the average limits were, highest speed, amongst other things. How many total number of vehicles traveled, the number who were traveling above the speed limit. So it does obviously show that at certain times of day there were more instances of speeding on certain locations.
54% of the people sped
That is-
somewhere between 35 to 59 miles an hour right here on School Road
Yes.
at the intersection. That is.
They went 59
That
miles
is
an
in
hour.
2 weeks.
Yes.
In 2 weeks.
That's the highest speed.
Yeah,
So
that was the highest
The
speed.
first page is
The next page was 74 miles an hour.
so the first page, just so you're aware, is when it was parked on Center Road, right here by
Right.
School, on the corner of School Road, the intersection. Then the second page is when it was located just past Weatherhead Hollow. Oh, sorry, on Weatherhead Hollow Road. And then the last one is when it was deployed on Route 5, right next to Doug Richmond's place.
So we have some pretty high speeders.
So, and the highest speed recorded on Route 5 was 76 miles an hour in a 35.
What time of day?
Well, the majority of
4 and 5 p.m.
4 and 5 p.m.
The average speed actually isn't bad when you look at the averages.
no, but the speed. Yeah, it's interesting. The speeders
Yeah.
it averages from like 11 to 7.
So did they make a lot of ticket money?
So,
No, this
I-
was just
I
the
do-
data.
this
Sorry,
is just the
data collection.
This is just
Not when
data
they were
collection
there,
from the
sorry.
cart. This does not imply that a state trooper was sitting in the proximity of that cart. I do also want to communicate from Lieutenant French that he apologized to the select board for not getting this data sooner. Unfortunately, their sergeant that is responsible for this has been out for personal reasons for quite a number of months now.
And they're
So-
hugely understaffed.
Yes, and they're already understaffed. So, hopefully at a future meeting in the near future, I will also be presenting to you the monthly statistics for the work that they are contracted to do for us here in the town. And I also requested statistics about other non-traffic related calls that VSP has attended to in Guilford within the past 6 months.
And what are we supposed to do with this information?
It's just a report.
It's-
My recommendation though would be, if they are going to target, to target their 8 hours a month in these hours with the highest level of speeding, because it's pretty consistent when the
Yep.
speeders.
So, they will do their best to be in Guilford at your request. But obviously, we only contract with them for 8 hours a month, and they contract with numerous other towns.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be the highest number, I think it should be the highest percentage.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think the other thing was, I think a lot of people were getting ticket, this is like years, like when I was in the audience, before I was on the select board, I think the issue was that people were complaining because they were getting they were ticketing people from going to and coming back from work. So, I think those are the hours you're talking about. So just keep in mind that in the past, I think we had told the sheriff's department to, back off those hours, actually.
Which is what they had been doing.
That was the sheriff's department, and that was
Oh.
several years ago.
Yeah,
And this is.
That's what I'm saying, that was before I was in the select, like when I used to sit in the audience.
there were a lot of tickets.
But I'm just
I
saying,
think more importantly, maybe around
From the sheriff.
school, drop off and pick up.
I was
or
thinking around
something.
school time might be,
Right.
Guilford Central Road at 5 o'clock, and the intersection with Route 5 is pretty scary sometimes, so people don't, just because they're working doesn't mean they get to travel 60 miles
No,
an
I'm
hour,
not saying
50.
that, I'm just saying that was just a piece of information that we
Mhm.
actually, like the select board, not we, in the past, had actually.
So
So
just
I'm-
to talk to your point, one of the main times that the board just before this makeup had requested of VSP last year was to focus on the hours around school drop off in the morning, and so that's when
Yeah.
one of their major times where they have been in town, and that's what they're still doing.
And actually, the percentage of people speeding around Route 5 is actually much less than either Guilford Center Road or Weatherhead Hollow, so we might, the scales are different though.
So
Yeah,
we would ask- I think
25,000
maybe we
cars
would
on
ask
Route
them
5.
to,
Yeah,
to make some conclusions and some recommendations to the board about how they would use this data.
but I also think it's good data, 'cause
Traffic
Yes.
mitigation.
there was, people were saying people are going 90 miles an hour down, and it turns
Mhm.
out it's only 59.
Still scary.
Less than what we,
What's the posted speed limit at 59?
35,
30.
35.
So how many miles an hour over the posted speed limit
24.
as a percentage of total speed?
Yeah, it's 54% over.
And
Sorry, just curious.
It's a lot.
unfortunately, I did not have time to
No.
prepare it for tonight's meeting because I got it earlier today. But I did receive an email from I just wrote down his name, from the state engineer on the bridge, and they have received several complaints about people dramatically speeding in that area of town.
Route 5?
Yeah.
Because
On
it's
the
on-
new bridge?
Yes, on the new bridge.
It's
And
opened
so
up.
it's because it's wider, particularly when kids are coming home from school. So they have made some recommendations, which I will pass on to the board, about the potential of having one of those permanent mounted speed control devices, not like monitoring devices, just on the south side of the bridge. And I'm not guaranteeing at the moment, but based on the information he provided us, it appears there may be a state grant available to fund that. I need to contact him and look into it.
Thank
And
you.
So
That would be awesome.
I just didn't have time to prepare all the details for them.
They help. They definitely help. Those speeding things,
Thank you very much.
They do.
postings.
I'm glad that we're contracting with the state police, because I think when they do stop people, they do it in a more timely manner than the sheriff's department, which keeps everybody for half an hour when they do a stop.
And they do it frequently.
Used to. Moving right along to warrants. Thank you. Gabby, are you on for warrants today?
I'll make the motion to pay the following payroll warrants. Payroll for the week ending September 17th, 2017 in the amount of $5,899.61. Payroll for the week ending September 24th, 2017 in the amount of $5,809.59. Expense warrant 1806 in the amount of $109,250.50. And expense warrant 6FW in the amount of $259. For a grand total of payroll and warrants, $121,218.70. There were some big ones. The biggest one was we paid our fire district and fire department bond, the bond for the fire department building itself. We'll get reimbursed for from the Algiers Fire District for the sewer bond, sewer and water. That was about $74,000 total for principal and interest for this year. Health insurance for the town employees was about $7,000, and the final payment for the reappraisal was about $8,000. So those were the big ticket items.
So
Is
I'll
there a
second that.
Miranda seconded. Any discussion, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Who?
So I would like to suggest or move that we move into executive session on a personal matter per VSA 313A1.
And invite.
And invite Dan Zambrowski to join us.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry, who seconded? Gabby?
Doesn't matter.
Gabby.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we will go into executive session
Thank
at
you.
7:51. So we're going to, I'd entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
You don't need to move, you just exit.
We're exiting executive session at 8:24 p.m. And I would entertain a motion stating that the select board has agreed to accept Dan Zambrowski's recommendation on a personnel matter.
I so move.
Second.
Veranda, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Communications.
Very briefly, we have communication from VLCT about their annual Fall Planning and Zoning Forum. It's highly recommended for listers, assessors, and select board members.
And planning commission.
And planning commission, sorry, I forgot about that one. So it's here for your perusal, very
And
briefly.
I'm hoping that some of the new planning commissioners will go to this because it's a pretty helpful thing to do. We've
Yep.
done it before.
Yep, Lisa
State
and Jeremiah
enforcement of
have,
solid waste and junk fire.
Lisa and Jeremiah had both gone previously and both said it was very helpful.
So hopefully Michelle's seen that as well for the planning commission.
I believe so. And then, as I shared with all of you, Dan Engel has sent a letter of resignation as the town representative with Rescue Inc. As he's been happy to serve, but needs to move on and do
Excuse me.
other things. And that's for your information, and to start considering somebody else that could replace him.
Is there a process for choosing somebody or just drumming up a
No,
volunteer? or what?
well, Dan
may have some ideas.
We'll go to the
Dan does-
criteria.
Dan did have one idea, and
Oh.
Dan's idea was sitting at the table.
Yeah.
Oh.
He who has
wow,
been
I
most
like that
verbal
process.
about the issues.
Maybe initially I can step into that role.
But that was Dan's recommendation, was to consider Gordon in that position, if Gordon would accept it.
Would you like to be our interim representative
I'll
to
be
the
the,
rescue?
Thank you, Gordon.
Do we need
That's
a
That was
most
easy.
generous.
I think you do need a motion for that.
I
With all
move
this
that,
conversation, it's kind of hard not to say yes to that.
I move that Gordon be the temporary representative of the town of Guilford to Rescue Inc.
I'll second that.
Miranda, thank you. Any discussion, Gordon?
No, and I'm
You
going to
don't get
abstain
to
from
decide.
voting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Gordon's abstaining. Thank you. The list of outstanding items before the select board is in the
No,
minutes
yeah, exactly.
and is on the agenda and will be in the minutes, and we have covered much of those, and I think we do not need to review them tonight. Maybe we'll get to them in our meeting on Wednesday morning. And unless there's anything else, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
8:27 p.m. Gabby seconded. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.